This is Behind the Headlines, with behind-the-scenes analysis on issues affecting Pennsylvanians, sponsored by the Susquehanna Valley Center for Public Policy. Now, here's your host.
Hi, welcome to a new edition of Behind the Headlines. I'm Maura Donley, your host for today. Charlie Greenwald, our usual host, is still on assignment. He's been very, very busy. But I'm very fortunate today to have Jere Strittmatter with me as my co-host. Welcome, Jere.
Hi, Maura. Nice to see you today.
Nice to see you as well. Well, we are very excited today and honored to have our new state treasurer, Stacy Garrity, with us. We want to welcome you to the show, Secretary. It's wonderful to have you. We have so much to learn about you today. So why don't we start with, why don't you tell us a little bit about your fascinating background?
Okay, I'd be happy to, but first I just want to thank you, Maura, and Jere for having me on your show today.
Welcome.
So Stacy Garrity, I am from Bradford County, not Bradford, PA, so one of the more rural counties in Pennsylvania, where I like to joke that we have more cows than people. My background in the private sector, I spent 34 years working at the largest tungsten smelter in the Western world, Global Tungsten and Powders, in Towanda, Pennsylvania, where I worked my way up to become one of two female vice presidents. Last couple of assignments were vice president of 2 out of 3 of our business units and vice president of government affairs and industry liaison. Okay, until I decided to run for a state treasurer. I will also mention that I spent 30 years in the United States Army Reserves. I'm an MP. I had 3 combat deployments all to Iraq, and my last deployment was in 2008-2009. I was acting battalion commander at Camp Bucco, which is in southern Iraq, and our mission was to provide care and custody for 7,000 detainees, and I had 1,200 soldiers under my command. It was the first internment facility to have 0 abuse allegations. So I did retire in June of 2016 because I hit that thing called your mandatory retirement date, where they kick you out. Or I would still be serving because serving our country was the honor of a lifetime.
Well, I'm going to start by saying thank you both for your military service to the country and now your service to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Thank you so much for that. It's an honor to meet you. And I have to tell you, I wanted to start today because I know we're going to talk about unclaimed property. I am kind of a freak for that. I'm always on that site checking to see if I have any money in there, if my family members have any money in there, and I have recovered money. And and I actually recovered money for my sister as well. So I want to talk a little bit about that today, and because I think a lot of people don't know about it. So tell us a little bit about the program to get it started, and then I know Jere has some questions to ask you as well.
That's great, and thanks for getting on the site and being so diligent checking. Also, when I was campaigning, I checked it and I had unclaimed property that I was able to recover. So yes, it's a very simple process, but the Commonwealth has almost 4 billion, and that's billion with a B, of unclaimed property. And that's, your money, not our money. So it's essentially abandoned properties. It could be an old bank account, an old retirement account from a job that somebody had many years ago. It could be stocks, or it could be tangible items like jewelry, baseball cards, coin collections, military decorations. And so what people can do is they can go to patreasury.gov/unclaimed property to see if they have any. And you can, basically, it's very easy. As you know, you fill out a form that's on our website. And it's important that you don't have missing information or an incorrect spelling, because that could slow up the process. And I do also want to mention that 1 out of 10 Pennsylvanians have unclaimed properties. So that's a lot of people.
That's wonderful. Unfortunately, I checked and I did not receive anything. I've looked a couple of times. And so I guess my family is pretty good at keeping their safe deposit boxes, claimed, rather than being unclaimed. And so how do people, when you go on, can you go on for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? Is that site open, or are there hours?
No, you can go on anytime, 24/7. And I also want to mention that we're in the middle of upgrading our system. So before, depending on the size of the claim, you might have to print out papers, you might have to get it notarized if it was over a certain dollar threshold, and you would get a paper check back. With our upgrade, you're going to be able to do it right online, and it'll go to your direct deposit right into your bank account.
Oh, that's
Is that
fantastic.
what you're calling the vault? Is that the vault that you have, or is that something different?
Actually, that's the software, but the vault, if we want to talk about the vault, it's really pretty fantastic. So it was built in 1939, and it cost just under $600,000 to build. Now, if you adjusted for inflation today, that would be about $11 million, which I think is still relatively inexpensive, relatively speaking. But it was originally used to store cash, securities, and weapons. Of course, we don't take any weapons. We don't have any weapons in the vault. And it's made up of 400 tons of steel. And there's also a lot of concrete. And just the front door alone weighs 60 tons. And I also want to mention, this is another fun fact, that it's the largest operating vault in the country.
So, okay, so can I go visit it? I mean, or is that just where everything is stored? All my unclaimed funds are in the vault.
They are in the vault, Maura.
Okay.
And we don't typically do tours, but there's a video out there of me giving a virtual tour if you want to go out and look. It's really interesting. And if anybody has ever seen the movie Ocean's 11, our vault is even more impressive than that vault in that movie.
Oh, that's a great movie.
And well, once again, I was blessed to be able to take school groups there, years ago. So you might want to think about, allowing some of them to come in, because it was very, very impressive to see, and I think it was a great learning experience too. If it can work out with security, I would just suggest that. But
no, I agree, Jere.
Are the medals also in there? Or is there a certain place where people could actually see those, or is it on the video? I think that would be very interesting to the viewers too, if we're looking, at your video to sort of show those. I think that would be, helpful too. Do you think that's possible?
We do show the medals, the video, and also on the website, there is a very simple search that basically lists, all of the medals and the service people connected to those medals. And so family members can go on and look. So we're making it a real high priority to return those military decorations. To date, we've returned about 370, and these can be from, Purple Hearts, Legions of Merit, Bronze Stars, Military Service Medals, all the campaign medals for all of the different wars and conflicts, and dog tags even. So we still have about 650 to be returned, and of course, the number fluctuates because we receive property all the time. But as a veteran myself, returning those military decorations to a service member or their family, that's very near and dear to my heart.
So do you make that a priority? Do you actively go out to try to locate them, or do you just wait for them to come to you?
No, we actively go out and look. And in fact, we're in the process of returning about 72 now. So what we do is we'll inform the legislator we're about ready to return these medals back to the service member family so that they know. And we also do a proclamation from the Treasurer's office to go along with the medal that we're returning. So it's really quite nice. And we're looking also to maybe have an intern put a focus on returning more of those military decorations back this summer. So it's definitely a high priority.
Oh, that'd be great. And are there some things that are just so big and you put out, with general services in a building, and you just, tag it, or because I would think that there's probably some unclaimed things that would just be too big, too cumbersome to put into the vault. Or are there?
No, our vault is pretty big. So I'm not aware of like any things like vehicles or anything like that. If I'm incorrect, I'll have to get back to you, Jere. But I will mention that we've had a couple unusual items. and one was a stuffed piranha from a safe deposit box, and that got auctioned off for $30. And also one time we received a safe deposit box, and it was filled with $2 million worth of platinum and gold bars. Can you imagine if you were that owner and you forgot that you had $2 million? Well, the good news is we were able to return that property to its rightful owner. But the most common, and we do turn down some types of property, which I mentioned earlier, the most common type would be weapons. So we don't take weapons.
Well, I'm so sad to say that I was not the owner of the $2 million. Darn. So what, I mean, you have a personal favorite cool item that that you had to give back to somebody that you found in there?
Really, my favorite are the military decorations, because every one is attached to a story. I can give you an example. There was somebody from World War II that was still alive, not in our state, in a warmer weather, but I believe he was 94 years old, and grew up with his brother. He was an orphan. The minute they turned 16, they enlisted. He was in the 30th Infantry Division, so was on the front lines at one of a very tough battle, a very bloody battle. Got injured. As soon as he recovered, he went back to the front lines. And so we had his Purple Heart, and we just had a newspaper clipping, and we were able to trace down him and his stepson and caregiver. And of course, they were thrilled to get it back. Of course, just like a lot of our World War II vets, he really didn't care to talk about it much, but his family was just absolutely delighted. So you really can't put a price tag on the military decorations.
Well, you did mention just a moment ago that you auctioned something off. When does something actually go to auction? Or how does that happen if it hasn't been claimed? How long do you keep things?
Okay, so basically after like a financial institution or safe deposit box, after 3 years of dormancy, they'll turn those items over to the Treasury. And then after 3 years, we'll auction off, we never do, of course, we never touch certain things like military decorations. And if something is very exotic, we might keep it longer than 3 years to try and really get the property back to its rightful owners. But if we do auction it off, and then later, it could even be 10 years down the road, the owner comes looking for it, we've kept that money into perpetuity. So at least that dollar value is always available. So it's never too late to get your unclaimed property. But
it is a good idea to check regularly.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Like me, I do.
I'm glad you do. That's
I
great.
Do.
Going forward, how often do you go to the vault yourself?
Gosh, I think I've been there now twice. So I've been in office just over 100 days. And so I did the tour, and then I gave a tour. And then it was really interesting. I just did a segment with Senator Laughlin on unclaimed property, where he showed the video, and then we talked about it. So we're really trying to get the word out. And we'll do special segments, for example, on every holiday. And then every time I go to a county, I'll announce to the county how much of their unclaimed property that we have. So for example, we just went to Bucks, and I believe the number was $110 million just in Bucks County, and also a huge number in Chester County as well.
So what happens if you are an heir to someone who has property in there and they never claimed it, and you notice it, a parent or someone passes away, can you still get access to that property? You can, and the staff at Unclaimed Property will help do that. So it's of course a little bit more complex, because we always have to make sure that we're giving the property to the right person. And then there's factors that include how much the property's worth. Was there a will? Is there an executor for the estate? And so it takes just a little bit longer if the original owner's deceased, but close family members can absolutely claim the property, even if there is no will. And all they have to do is call, and Treasury staff will help them through the process. Well, what, aside from the $2 million item, what is the average claim for property?
That is a great question. And so the average claim is just over $2,000. And if you think about it, that can make a really big difference to families, and especially those who have been hit hard by the pandemic through no fault of their own.
Well, that's great. Well, we are going to continue our discussion with the treasurer in just a few moments. We want to thank you for joining us on this first half of Behind the Headlines.
Thank you again for having me.
Behind the Headlines is brought to you as a public service by the Pennsylvania State Association of Township Supervisors, the largest, most influential municipal association in the Commonwealth. Since 1921, PSATS has been preserving and strengthening township government and securing greater visibility and involvement for townships in the state and federal political arenas. Covering 95% of Pennsylvania's land mass, townships represent 5.5 million residents, more than any other type of political subdivision in Pennsylvania. Additional underwriting provided by the Worrell Corporation Foundation, based in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, by the Edward H. and Jeannie Arnold Foundation, and by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business. Behind the Headlines is also supported as a public service by the Pennsylvania Highway Information Association, the go-to source to learn about transportation projects and issues. Visit pahighwayinfo.org.
Welcome back to Behind the Headlines. And today we're very blessed to have Madam Treasurer of Pennsylvania with us. And we're going to talk in this segment about Keystone Saves and a lot of other, important issues that the Madam Secretary deals with every day. And since she just, started in office a couple months ago, it's really a great pleasure to have you with us, Madam Secretary.
Thank you.
Would you like to go
Really
in?
happy to be with you.
Yeah, would you like to tell us about the your Keystone Saves program?
I am thrilled to talk about Keystone Saves. So we know as a nation, we don't save enough for retirement. And we also know that people are 15 times more likely to save for retirement if their employer offers some sort of savings plan, like a 401k. And Keystone Saves would help with that. So Keystone Saves is just like a public-private partnership similar to our 529 college and career savings program. And that would allow folks who work at companies that don't have any sort of retirement plan an opportunity to invest into a plan. It's similar to a Roth IRA, and that would follow the employee from job to job. And you could also withdraw at any time, for example, if there was an emergency.
And so this is a proposal that's before the General Assembly now?
We're actually, we haven't introduced it yet. So we're still working with the General Assembly, working with the stakeholders and working on getting a sponsor, but we hope to do that very soon.
How will this help all of our taxpayers save money in the long run?
Maura, that's an excellent question. So without Keystone Saves, we estimate that unprepared retirees, they will cost the state an additional $14.5 billion in increased state social services, and also an additional $1.4 billion loss in tax collections, and that's due to reduced consumer spending. So that's between now and 2030, and that's a lot of money. So what we want to do is help folks save for retirement, because that will reduce their reliance on all of these state government programs when they do retire. And we know that folks need just a little bit over $400 more a month in addition to their Social Security income just to be able to make it. So what it does, it's going to help employers who don't offer any sort of retirement plan. They'll be able to attract and retain employees. It's going to help more than 2 million Pennsylvanians who have no opportunity to save for retirement, and they don't even have emergency savings. And it doesn't cost the employer anything. All they have to do is just provide a payroll deduction. Treasury manages it along with a private partner, and it's truly a win-win-win. So it's great for small businesses, it's great for employees, and it's obviously very good for taxpayers.
Well, it sounds like it would definitely provide some incentive. I mean, employers are having such a hard time right now hiring people. It sounds like it would be an absolute benefit for an employer to be offering this and to be able to hire people, attract people into their business.
And about how do you imagine this, rolling out, with the, once you get it enacted? Is this something that will, work out over a 6-month period or a 3-month period, or and who will have access to this?
Okay, that is a great question, Jerry. So as soon as legislation is enacted, it doesn't even start to be phased in for 2 years. So it'll take about 4 years to be phased in. And so the very smallest employers, obviously they could go quicker, but they would be phased in really towards the end.
Will this be mandatory for employers, or is this an optional program?
So it is optional. So basically we want the employers to offer the payroll deduction. Then the employees are opted in, but they can opt out. And when you look at research, about a third opt out. So really, if you think about it, you're going to get 2/3 of employees to start being able to save. That's a really good thing.
Is this a new program, nationwide, or are there other programs in other states that were, and when you said the research, is that what the research is about? What's happening in other states and commonwealths?
The research of the 14.5 billion and the 1.4 billion, that's specific to Pennsylvania, and Pew has helped us with that, but other states are doing this, many other states. So gosh, there's California, Oregon, Virginia, Maryland, and there's several other states as well that I'm not, thinking off the top of my head, but there's a lot of other states that are looking into it, like New Jersey. So, but our state will be the leader as far as being business friendly. So, so we're making this the most business friendly of any state that's out there.
So you said that it's not quite introduced yet into legislation, but do you have any champions in the General Assembly at this point that you think are going to carry it forward for you?
I do, but, and that should be official. Actually, that's on my list to finalize this week. So I won't say the names because I don't want to commit them before they gave me their 100% word, but there's a lot of champions in the legislature. This is truly bipartisan that really like this program. So, it's a great way to just help Pennsylvanians. And like I said, there's 2 million more that, or 2.2 million that could use some help. So if we just help them be able to save a little, then it's a great thing that they can be more independent.
As you know, the magic numbers in the legislature are 102, 26, and 1. So the more co-sponsors and more champions you have, it is good that you are taking the time to do this properly and to work it through the proper channels, because the more people that can sign on and be there initially makes it that much easier to pass, get enacted and have our citizens benefit from this, like they do from the 529 program that you have, for colleges, higher education. And also I'm really interested in the ABLE program, for disabled people, that then it doesn't go into the means testing, when they're trying to get, the needed services now. It doesn't pay then to save. And I think that ABLE program is very worthwhile too. If you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I'd love to talk about ABLE. So ABLE is similar to the 529 college and career savings programs. And what it does, it allows people with disabilities and their families to save without negatively impacting any of their federal benefits like Social Security for people with disabilities, and Medicaid. And we recently passed a huge milestone of $50 million in assets. So that can help so many people. And I also want to mention that I strongly support the ABLE Age Adjustment Act. And what that would do, it would expand eligibility to those with disabilities that occur prior to age 46. Right now, Jerry, it's prior to age 26, which you probably knew that. But increasing that age to 46 would mean that 6 million more Americans, including 1 million veterans, would have access to ABLE. And, that's so important to help our veterans, who basically put their lives on the line to protect all of us.
I'd like to ask you a question I also had the opportunity to ask the new Auditor General, and that is, what was one of the biggest surprises you had when you first got into office? What was unanticipated when you first got there?
Oh my gosh, I had so many surprises, Maura, because as you know, I never held elected office. So I would say one thing was just how dedicated the staff are. I mean, we have so many people with an extreme amount of institutional knowledge, and particularly in Treasury, because some of the jobs are really quite complex. And just their devotion to the Commonwealth, I really can't say enough that I'm blessed to have, I would say, the best staff of any agency. So that was a surprise. Also, I come from the military and the private sector, where I was on a plane like 50% of the time to all kinds of countries like China, Japan, South Korea, Hong Kong, and then every European country, Austria, Finland, the Czech, Luxembourg, Sweden, Italy, Spain, the UK, any country you can imagine I've probably traveled to, Israel, India, Australia. So I thought, oh gosh, I hope Treasury's not, on the boring side. It is so exciting. So I guess the other thing that surprised me was how much I really love this job, because I a company after 34 years. It's going to take me a long time to really get in, to really get into this. I love this job. I really do. So, and I'm just so honored to be the state treasurer.
Well, that's great that you're so dedicated and you have such an experience of traveling, because, if Pennsylvania was in Europe, we'd probably be 14 different countries. And so it's very good that you'll travel the entire Commonwealth, because there's, certain needs and personalities and culture, throughout the Commonwealth, as you'll find out.
Jere, you're right. And I will mention that I made a commitment to get to all 67 counties every year. So because I do come from, rural Pennsylvania, we see that sometimes the rural counties get left out by state government. So I have asked all of our directors and deputy treasurers at Treasury to look for ways to increase our rural outreach.
Well, I know through this show, you'll be able to do that, because this views throughout the Commonwealth, and also you can send this segment, to everyone. And so I look forward, when you come back, of hearing about, what it's been like, traveling, all around the Commonwealth, because not too many people do that.
I've already been, I think it's 22 counties since I took office.
Oh, that's awesome. I think everybody will really love meeting you. I think, you bring a unique perspective to the job, and I want to thank you so much for being here with us today. It's been a pleasure to get to know you. And as Jere said, I think we hope we can have you back at some point, maybe after you visited all 67, and
okay.
you can tell us your favorite foods, and because I'm sure you're going to get a lot of invitations after this show. But we want to thank you for being with us today. As I said, it's been an honor, and we will be back with a new edition of Behind the Headlines later. Thank you.